Hi, how you doing? Dr. Chris here again. Thank you so much for joining me and following me along for these last few days. And I'm going to catch everybody up to speed if you've missed the last couple of days. And then we're going to get into a pretty amazing offer and get into some of the rest of the program here. So let me get started. I want to paint a picture for you for a moment, okay? Think about what it would be like if you were to be stronger than you've ever been in your entire life. Think about what it would be like if you actually doubled or even tripled your strength. What would your life be like? Kind of a neat thing to explore. Play with that idea a little bit. What if I could tell you that you could get those results in a lot shorter period of time than you thought? Instead of the next 20 years, maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, faster than you ever thought was possible. And what if you could do it in a safe way? All right, do it in a way that had the least amount of risk involved, where you can get the maximum amount of potential. It sounds pretty good. We're painting a fun little story here. What if you could see results every single time you stepped onto the playing field or the gym or wherever you were when you're working out, that every time was an improvement, not hitting a plateau and drifting off in your results, but actually getting consistent and progressive gains every single time. Sounds pretty exciting. If you've ever been an athlete in your life, to get progressive results and not getting stuck in plateaus or drifting off, it's pretty exciting. What if you could save hours a week, not having to spend 8-10 hours a week in the weight room lifting traditional weightlifting styles, and then instead get the maximum amount of strength that you could possibly get and have all of those hours saved, because you can get those kind of results in 5 to 10 minutes a week and be able to spend all those extra hours on sport-specific skills, whether you're dribbling, you're shooting, or if you want to spend more time in your business or more time with your family. Those hours are for you to do what you want so that you're actually getting massive results, saving time, and being able to use that time for whatever else that you want it to be for. Pretty awesome picture again, all right? So again, think about what it would be like to double or even triple your strength gains, all right? The problem is that traditional weight training methods, their results can be kind of up and down, and you're automatically going through that full range of motion, going to do two major things that are going to keep you from reaching your genetic potential. One, for a lot of those lifts, when you're going into the deepest range of the motion, you're at the most risk. And a lot of people get themselves injured throughout that full range of motion in those deeper ranges. And two, to go through the full range of motion, we'll just take a bench press as an example. When you're doing that bench press and you're coming all the way down, it's a much weaker range when you're all the way down near your chest. What we find is, on average, you have to pick a weight that's about half of your actual true capacity at that point in time to make it through those weaker ranges. All right. So if you're capable of doing a 200-pound bench press through a full range, through your strongest range, more than likely on average, you're actually able to push out 400 pounds worth of intensity into those muscles. Now make that comparison. Do you think your body is going to have a stimulus that creates adaptive changes more so with 200 pounds or with 400 pounds? Hopefully math makes sense to you, and that we're actually, the 400 pounds creates a much more maximal stimulus. It's going to create this trigger in the brain, in the nervous system, in the muscular system, that's going to force adaptation to take place at a much higher rate, and that's when results exponentially go crazy. It's a lot of fun. All right. So now you'll be able to spend more hours working on sport-specific skills again, and not having to, essentially waste a whole lot of extra hours in the gym. Now, I understand there's going to be people out there who are just gym rats. They love putting in hours and hours in the gym, and there's nothing I can say to that. It can be a lot of fun working out. What I'm talking about is the most efficient way to get the maximum results. Okay? If you love spending countless hours in the gym, then they just love doing that. We're talking about efficiency to get those maximum results. Okay? Traditional methods definitely going to increase your risks of injury, which we've talked about. You're going to compromise joint position, and just even potentials of throwing on all of the weights. And there was one time where I was throwing on plate after plate after plate. The potential of dropping a plate or hurting yourself when you're constantly lifting and twisting and putting all those on. Lifting to a higher end of capacity and not having a spotter. The beautiful thing with the Peak Fit Pro, you never have to worry about loading plates onto the machine. You never have to worry about having a spotter. And it's a beautiful thing. Incredibly safe when you don't have to worry about those things. The machine itself has a 5,000 pound capacity that we've never had anybody come close to overdoing. And you absolutely don't need a spotter ever. You're always going to be safe in that regards. So very exciting there. So a little bit about my background again, in case you didn't catch that in a previous video. I'm somebody who has been involved with sports and peak performance my entire life. Okay, played basketball my entire life. Went on to play basketball in college, where we won multiple championships. We went on to the Sweet 16 and played at a pretty high level. A lot of my teammates ended up playing professionally. There's several of them over in Europe, and it was the time of my life. A lot of fun when every single day your thought process was winning a championship and playing at that level. And after college, after I became a doctor, I got really interested and involved with Ironman triathlon, and I ended up being able to compete in the Ironman World Championships. We'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things that I noticed and realized when we're following our regimented cycle of training in basketball is we would get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning and we would lift. Wasn't a lot of fun, and after we were done lifting, we're out on the track running 400s against some absolute thoroughbreds on my team. Some of these guys are just some of the fastest people I've ever met. And we're busting our butt. We're going for a championship every single year. And one thing really caught my attention, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it completely, and I wasn't one that I'm going to start questioning what coach said that we were going to do. But we'd lift Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and what I always noticed is that by Friday, we're kind of beat up and tired, and you couldn't do the same amount of weight or the same amount of reps as you could on Monday. It's like, well, that's interesting. And I had this thought. It's like, why would I lift on Monday that should cause me to be stronger, and then by Friday I'm more tired and worn out? All right? I want you to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and this is what a lot of athletes do week after week, month after month, that ultimately create this downward spiral that ultimately leads to injury, illness, and burnout. All right? And that's the exact thing that I want to help you to overcome, not sticking to these such regimented schedules that you're not looking at how your individual body is recovering. If you did this amazing workout and then you worked out again before you got the benefit of that workout, the strength, the speed, the flexibility, whatever it was that you were trying to get out of that workout, if you haven't recovered yet and super compensated, then you're wasting your time. And you keep getting these workouts in over and over and over again, and you're just not experiencing the results that you're putting in all that effort for. All right, so more on that in just a little bit. So I listened to this interview between Tony Robbins and Pete Sisco. They're talking about results with strength training far beyond anything that I had seen before. My experience was that I had spent my senior year of college 6 months getting up to my peak capability with a full range repetition bench press of 315 pounds. It was the best I could do. Some people would laugh at it and say, oh, you spent that much time and you couldn't lift anymore. Other people would say, that's an amazing amount of weight. Doesn't matter. Either end of the spectrum, that's what I was able to build up in a 6-month period of time in my preseason. Get to the season, you're not lifting as much, you're spending a lot more time on the court, you're on buses, you're watching game tape, and less time in the weight room. And I'd say 6 months later, I probably lost, and I'm sorry, not 6 months, 6 weeks later, I lost close to 100 pounds of that capability that I spent so much time trying to build up. It's one of those scenarios where you can get some big strength gains relatively quickly, but if you get out of the weight room in a short period of time, you also lose it quickly. During that interview, Tony Robbins and Pete Sisco Pete was talking about how him and his partner, following this program, had been lecturing around the country, spent 6 months apart not doing this particular program, and they came back together. They're like, oh, great, I'm going to have to start from square one again. And a lot of their lifts were personal records, which just totally blew my mind. Spend 6 months off of lifting and setting a personal record. That was way outside of my little conceptualized box of what my brain would let me believe. But I had enough trust and faith in my followings and the teachings of Tony Robbins. I've followed him for years, and he follows the best of the best. He immerses himself in people who get the best results of their life. So I was intrigued. And, they were talking about results that people were getting where they could literally double and triple their lifts. They talked about one particular study where they took professional power lifters, where they did 1 rep and 10 rep max repetitions through their full range reps. And then they lifted with this particular style, with the PFP Pro equipment it was specifically designed to do. So they ended up lifting this way for 10 weeks with these isometric all-out lifts. And then they went back to doing 1 rep and 10 rep maxes again through the full range repetition now. Their 1 rep and 10 rep maxes went up. Their 1 rep went up an average of 28%, and their 10 rep maxes went up by about 35% for professionals. That's, if you do the math, that's absolutely astronomical gains in a 10-week period of time. Phenomenal. And then they talked about a smaller study done with just your average Joe individual, and they doesn't do a lot of weightlifting. Their average gains were exceeding 80%. What I saw in my office when I purchased this original piece of equipment is that between myself and most of my patients, they were going between doubling and tripling a lot of their lifts. Pretty exciting, phenomenal results, phenomenal rehab. And then as time progresses, I get in to the Ironman World Championships. Number 1 on my bucket list. Absolutely excited. First thing I do is I get on the horn with Pete Cisco. I schedule a consult with him and explain the whole situation, that I followed him for years. I love all of his work, but I had one hang up that I wanted to consult with him on, was that when I start lifting that way, I'll put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks. And training for an Ironman where you're going to be racing for 140 miles, I didn't want to be carrying around that kind of weight. But I wanted maximum strength gains, maximum endurance gains, and incredibly efficient so that I can put in all the other volume of work that was required for getting ready for the Ironman World Championships. So I'm explaining all of this to him. He's really excited for me. And he says, Chris, we can't use your equipment for what I want to do. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the best gains I've had in my entire life. Can't we just change something? It's like, well, what we're going to change is, instead of a 10-second all-out isometric lift, what we want is a 3-minute all-out isometric lift. Everything that you've got for 3 minutes. But the problem was, with the technology that existed at that point in time, all you get is one peak number. Could you picture pushing as hard as you possibly could or squatting as hard as you could for 3 minutes, and you hit the button and you get one number? Say you squatted a peak of 420 pounds. Doesn't really mean a whole lot over a 3-minute period of time. So we had to change some things up. We catered to the best of our ability to help me train for the Ironman World Championships. But I got frustrated and innovated at the same time. I wanted to create the technology that we discussed of actually wanting to have involved with an all-out isometric lift. And that's when the birth of PFP Pro happened. Creating the technology to measure, unlike any time in the history, an isometric lift over any period of time, whether it was 5 seconds or 500 minutes long. I now have the technology to be able to measure those things and have more insight and objective data than ever before for our lifts, so that we can have progressive and constant overload and adaptive changes in the body. So exciting, and the results have been absolutely phenomenal. I can still get my peak numbers. And my peak squat went from 420 pounds. The most recent one is 1,487 pounds for an isometric squat for 3 minutes. And I'll tell you, with all of my training I've ever done in my life, a 3-minute isometric lift was the most grueling thing I've ever done in my entire life. From a total perspective, we get 1 reading per second for 180 seconds for my 3-minute lifts. And what happened was I went from 26,000 pounds, and my most recent one is 160,000 pounds in the same 3-minute period of time. Do the math on that. Not only going up and tripling my peak performance and strength, but also exponentially increasing the endurance capability of maintaining a massive load on those muscles. And I'll tell you, the crossover has been absolutely phenomenal. I've actually got an Ironman coming up this summer, and between life and building this equipment and training and my office and family life, haven't been putting in those 10 and 20 and 30 hour training weeks. But I am putting out significantly more power than I was just 2.5 years ago training for the Ironman World Championships now. And it's all because of putting in these kind of efforts on the Peak Fit Pro and the technology that allows me to do that. I'm talking significant. One example, the highest that I ever had for a 5-minute interval previously on the bike was 299 watts, maintained as an average over a 5-minute period of time before I competed in the Ironman World Championships. Now, my last 3 that I did 309, 314, and 322 watts were my last 3 5-minute intervals that I put out. Just to give you an idea, that's a pretty phenomenal gain in overall power that I could sustain over an interval like that. So yes, the results and strength are phenomenal, and the crossover into other sport is phenomenal as well. Even when I haven't been spending barely any time on a bike, being able to see that crossover, incredibly exciting for me. And that's a little bit of the background about how the Peak Fit Pro came to be. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch over here just for a second and talk to you a little bit more about the offer itself. Okay. So what we're going to look at is the Peak Fit Pro Gym. The Peak Fit Pro Gym, you can see pictured below this video. It can do all major muscle groups, minor muscle groups, every exercise that I've tried to think up to be able to do on this machine. We've been able to be creative and actually be able to do it. You can look on the website, see video footage and pictures of all the different setups so that you could do every muscle group in your body. All right. It has a 5,000-pound load cell built into it, which means even the strongest people on the planet are going to be able to use this to their maximum intensity level. Absolutely phenomenal. This thing is built with thick steel to be able to withstand even the strongest inputs and intensity levels on the machine. So here's the offer. You're going to get the machine, the Peak Fit Pro Gym that you see below, for the investment of $6,497. All right? But there's a few things that we're going to throw in for this special deal for you. One, we have a 28-piece accessory kit that's valued at $497. And there's something special about this accessory kit that you need to understand is when you're putting out loads of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, maybe even 4,000 pounds, the equipment out there in the marketplace, it wasn't designed to handle those kind of loads. And we had to actually create all of these accessories to be able to handle the maximum load capacities for our specific machine. So we spent a lot of time developing all of the different pieces. So all of the chains, the carabiners, all of the different pieces of that accessory kit, again, picture below for you, 28 separate pieces between all the hooks, the pads, the wrist wraps, the squat belt. Everything is included for you. No additional charge from that $64.97. It's going to be included for you on this special offer. Next piece of the special offer, anybody we're shipping this to in the continental United States, shipping is included. Another incredible value thrown in there for you. The next piece we're going to do is I wrote a document of my best practices guide. This is literally getting in my head for my entire experience of lifting this way with patients and myself over the last 15 years, why I do everything, why I developed something the way that I did, and literally getting inside my thoughts every step of the way, all of my decisions and thought processes about when I'm recovered, when I'm going to be moving forward with my next lift, and to continue getting those progressive results. That's what this particular guide is. This is my heart and soul poured out to everything that I've learned over the last 15 years in this style of lifting and results. Okay. Next, we've got a members group on Facebook. This is a closed group available to our Peak Fit Pro members who have purchased the Peak Fit Pro, so that you can not only gain access and ask questions to myself, you also can talk and communicate with owners of the Peak Fit Pro Gym all over the world, and to see how they're all using it, whether it's in a residential setting using it at home, whether you've got an elite athlete using it, or you've got it in the professional setting of a doctor's office for rehab, or you've got it in the professional setting of a commercial gym. We've got owners in all of those different categories, and you can tap into their collective learnings and their results as well. So that's thrown in with our closed group. And this is a special offer, never been offered before, only available through this particular offer that is going to expire in a few days, is a one-on-one coaching session online with myself, Dr. Chris, and we're going to discuss whatever goals that you've got from an athletic standpoint, from the standpoint of what you want to get out of the Peak Fit Pro Gym, and I'm gonna help you tailor any of your results specific to what your needs are and help you to hit the ground running as quickly as possible. I'm going to be there for you side by side, so you can not only get the greatest improvement in the evolution of strength training that the world has ever seen, where you actually have to hit an on button now for strength training to connect the Bluetooth board to the app on your iPhone or your iPad, and being able to see more information than ever before. We're truly taking strength training into the future, revolutionizing strength training, and combining that technology with being able to sit down with me one-on-one and trying to tailor something very specific so that you get the most benefit out of the most incredible piece and revolutionary piece of strength training equipment that the world has ever seen. You tie those both together, including the master formula that we've discussed as well on reaching your genetic potential, and you will be far ahead on your journey to reaching your genetic potential. That's what I'm here to do, and why, and my goal is to help all of my patients, to help all of my customers with the Peak Fit Pro Gym to reach their genetic potential in every aspect of their life. Whether it's in my office and you want to consult with me on a health basis, and we need to dive deep on things that are going, something going on from a health perspective. I teach doctors all over the world in continuing education courses. So whether it's in that area, or you're trying to reach an elite level of sports performance, or recover, rehab from injury or illness, and trying to get the most out of that to be the best that you can be, that's what I'm here for. That's why we created this technology, so that we can take the world into the future and to help us all achieve our genetic potential. So thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to helping you every step of the way. Look right underneath for that buy button. The offer is only going to be available here for a few more days, so take advantage of it. I'm so excited. Here to answer any questions that you've got. Thank you very much, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again tomorrow with some other great information. Take care and have a great day.